Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower and free wireless energy. In the early years of the 20th century, Nikola Tesla, the brilliant Serbian-American inventor whose alternating current system revolutionized electricity distribution, embarked on one of his most ambitious projects, the construction of Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, New York. Funded initially by J.P. Morgan, this massive structure was designed not merely to transmit signals across the Atlantic, but to deliver wireless electrical power to the entire world, drawing energy from the Earth's ionosphere and broadcasting it freely through the ground and atmosphere. Tesla envisioned a global network where electricity would be as accessible as air, eliminating the need for wires, meters, or fuel sources. Patents filed by Tesla described resonant transformers capable of harnessing atmospheric electricity and transmitting it over vast distances without loss. Yet, in 1906, funding abruptly ceased. Morgan, whose empire rested on copper wire infrastructure and metered power sales, withdrew support when he realized the system could not be easily monetized. No way to charge consumers for energy they received freely. Tesla's laboratory was raided, notes seized, and after his death in 1943, FBI agents reportedly confiscated trunks of documents under the guise of national security. Declassified files later revealed government interest in suppressing aspects of his work to protect established energy monopolies. Wardenclyffe Tower was dismantled in 1917, sold for scrap to pay debts, its potential buried. Had it succeeded, the age of fossil fuels might never have dominated. Centralized power grids controlled by corporations would have been obsolete. Instead, Tesla's vision of abundant, free energy was sidelined, forcing humanity into a century of dependency on oil, coal, and nuclear sources that enriched a few while polluting the planet. Contemporary researchers attempting to replicate Tesla's wireless transmission experiments have faced patent denials or marginalization, their work dismissed as impractical, despite small-scale successes demonstrating efficient power transfer over distances. The suppression extended beyond finance. Rival Thomas Edison, backed by General Electric interests, waged a public campaign discrediting alternating current itself as dangerous, electrocuting animals to prove the point. Tesla's later proposals for particle beam weapons and atmospheric energy harvesting were ignored or classified. The legacy persists in modern wireless charging technologies, mere shadows of what Wardenclyffe promised, a world where energy scarcity drives conflict and inequality no longer exists. Evidence from Tesla's own writings, including articles in Electrical World and Engineer, detailed the scientific feasibility, yet institutional resistance ensured the tower's dream remained unrealized, altering the course of technological history toward profit over progress. Stanley Meyer's water-powered fuel cell. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, inventor Stanley Meyer claimed to have developed a device that could power an automobile using ordinary water as fuel, splitting it into hydrogen and oxygen through resonance electrolysis far more efficiently than conventional methods. His dune buggy, demonstrated publicly, reportedly traveled hundreds of miles on gallons of water, producing no harmful emissions, only water vapor as exhaust. Meyer held multiple patents, including U.S. Patent 4,936,961 for a method for the production of a fuel gas, describing a system that used high-voltage pulses to fracture water molecules with minimal energy input, allegedly achieving overunity efficiency. Skeptics abounded, but Meyer defended his invention in court against fraud charges brought by investors, winning exoneration from an Ohio judge who examined the technology. Yet tragedy struck in March 1998, during a meeting with Belgian investors interested in licensing the device. Meyer suddenly collapsed and died after uttering words about being poisoned. An autopsy ruled cerebral aneurysm, but supporters point to the timing and his refusal of a rumored billion-dollar buyout from oil interests as suspicious. Shortly after, his laboratory was raided, prototypes dismantled, and research materials confiscated under unclear circumstances. The implications were profound. A vehicle fuel sourced from abundant water would dismantle the global petroleum economy worth trillions, eliminating wars over oil and slashing pollution overnight. Meyer's process echoed suppressed earlier work on hydrogen electrolysis, but his resonance technique purportedly required far less electricity than input energy yielded, challenging thermodynamic norms established by entrenched science. Independent replications have surfaced sporadically, videos of water-powered engines online, but inventors often face harassment, patent rejections, or disappearance from public view. Government agencies dismiss the claims, yet declassified documents on energy alternatives show selective funding favoring fossil fuels. Had Meyer's cell been mass-produced, transportation would have transformed decades ago, rendering internal combustion engines obsolete and freeing nations from foreign oil dependence. Instead, the technology vanished, buried amid accusations of pseudoscience, while electric vehicles only now emerge under controlled corporate rollout. The pattern repeats historical suppressions where disruptive energy innovations threaten vested interests, ensuring continued reliance on scarce, profitable resources. The Chronovisor, Vatican's alleged time-viewing device. In the 1950s, an Italian Benedictine monk and physicist named Father Pellegrino Ernetti claimed to have constructed a machine capable of viewing and recording images and sounds from any point in the past. Known as the Chronovisor, this device was reportedly developed in strict secrecy in Venice with the assistance of 12 unnamed scientists, including Nobel laureate Enrico Fermi and German rocket pioneer Wernher von Braun. According to Ernetti, the apparatus functioned by capturing residual electromagnetic and quantum traces left by historical events, reconstructing them into visual and auditory holograms through a complex array of cathode ray tubes, antennas, and exotic alloys tuned to specific frequencies. Ernetti provided astonishing demonstrations. He produced a transcript of a lost Latin tragedy by Quintus Ennius, a photographic image of Christ on the cross bearing an uncanny resemblance to the Shroud of Turin, and audio recordings of ancient speeches. Vatican authorities allegedly witnessed these displays and immediately classified the project, ordering absolute silence. The device was dismantled, its components scattered, and all documentation sealed within the apostolic archive. Ernetti himself, under oath of obedience, ceased public discussion until near death in 1994, when he confided to close associates that the Chronovisor remained intact and hidden, too dangerous for release because it could prove or disprove religious history definitively, threatening faith structures worldwide. The implications extend far beyond theology. Possession of verifiable historical footage would collapse centuries of academic consensus, expose fabrications in official narratives, and grant unparalleled power to whoever controls the record of the past. Governments and institutions invested in maintaining current historical interpretations, whether political, religious, or economic, would face existential risk. Leaked letters attributed to Ernetti describe warnings from high Vatican officials that the technology could be weaponized to blackmail nations by revealing buried atrocities or to manipulate public perception through selective disclosure. Skeptics dismiss the claims as fantasy, yet Ernetti's background in quantum physics and pre-electronic music lent credibility. His patents on acoustic resonance predate the project. Similar concepts appear in declassified CIA remote viewing programs and modern quantum entanglement research, where information seemingly transcends linear time. Independent attempts to replicate the Chronovisor have vanished from record, inventors silenced through institutional pressure or funding withdrawal. The Vatican has never officially denied the device's existence, responding only with no comment when pressed. If functional, the Chronovisor represents the ultimate suppressed invention, a tool that renders all propaganda obsolete by granting direct access to unfiltered truth, a capability no ruling authority could permit in open circulation. Das ist Royal Rife's universal microscope and frequency cancer cure. In the 1930s, American inventor Royal Raymond Rife developed a compound microscope achieving resolutions claimed to exceed 30,000 diameters, far beyond the theoretical limits of optical lenses at the time, allowing observation of live viruses in their natural color and motion. Built with custom prisms, quartz optics, and heterodyne ultraviolet illumination, the universal microscope reportedly revealed microorganisms previously invisible, enabling Rife to identify specific pleomorphic forms associated with carcinoma. Using the same principles of resonance, Rife constructed beam ray devices that emitted precise electromagnetic frequencies to devitalize pathogenic organisms without harming surrounding tissue. In 1934, a committee from the University of Southern California oversaw trials where 16 terminally ill cancer patients were treated at a San Diego clinic all reportedly recovered within months. Documentation from physicians involved described complete tumor regression verified by biopsy. Yet, by 1939, the American Medical Association and pharmaceutical interests launched a coordinated campaign against Rife. His laboratory was ransacked, equipment confiscated or destroyed, and associates intimidated into silence. Beamray Company records vanished in a suspicious fire. Morris Fishbein, powerful head of the AMA, allegedly offered to buy out Rife's technology on condition it be shelved. Upon refusal, legal and professional persecution intensified. Rife's microscopes disappeared, one allegedly ending in the Smithsonian mislabeled, while surviving units were rendered inoperable through deliberate sabotage. The medical establishment stood to lose billions in emerging chemotherapy and radiation markets if a non-toxic, inexpensive frequency treatment proved viable. Cancer remains among the most profitable diseases. A genuine cure would collapse entire industries built on prolonged management rather than eradication. Modern resonance research, including FDA-approved tumor-treating fields and ultrasound ablation, echoes Rife's principles, yet avoids direct acknowledgement. Independent researchers replicating his frequency protocols report anecdotal successes, only to face regulatory shutdowns and media dismissal as quackery. Had Rife's technology advanced unimpeded, oncology might have followed a radically different path, prioritizing vibrational medicine over chemical intervention. The systematic erasure of records, destruction of instruments, and character assassination of witnesses suggest deliberate suppression to protect entrenched economic models, ensuring continued reliance on patented high-margin treatments decades after viable alternatives were demonstrated. Viktor Schauberger's Repulsine and vortex energy systems. In the forests of Austria during the interwar period, forester and naturalist Viktor Schauberger observed spiral motions in mountain streams and concluded that nature's primary energy dynamic was implosion rather than explosion. Centripetal inward spiraling that cools, concentrates, and builds biological vitality. Rejecting conventional mechanical engineering's emphasis on heat and pressure, Schauberger developed devices harnessing vortex motion to generate levitation, propulsion, and abundant energy with minimal input. His most radical creation, the Repulsine, was a disc-shaped machine constructed in the early 1940s that reportedly achieved anti-gravitic lift through implosive suction vortices created by precisely shaped copper blades spinning in water or air. Commissioned by Nazi authorities seeking advanced propulsion, Schauberger produced prototypes demonstrating extraordinary performance, silent flight, rapid acceleration, and energy output exceeding input. Post-war American and Soviet teams interrogated him under Operation Paperclip-style programs. Documents released decades later confirm both superpowers seized his models and notes. Schauberger refused lucrative offers demanding military exclusivity, insisting his technology serve ecological harmony. In 1958, invited to the United States by industrialists promising development, he signed a contract surrendering all rights. Days later, he returned to Austria broken and died within a week, allegedly warning that his life's work had been stolen and would be weaponized or buried. The Repulsine's principles threatened petroleum and combustion industries by promising propulsion without fuel and energy generation from atmospheric humidity and temperature differentials, essentially free power drawn from natural gradients. Schauberger's patents on vortex turbines for hydroelectric enhancement were quietly acquired by corporations and shelved. Modern attempts to revive them encounter funding blocks or absorption into classified programs. Surviving footage and eyewitness accounts from wartime technicians describe saucer-like craft rising vertically without exhaust, phenomena eerily matching post-1947 UFO reports. Contemporary fluid dynamics research validates many of Schauberger's observations. Vortex implosion does indeed produce diamagnetic levitation effects and anomalous energy amplification under specific geometries. Yet mainstream engineering curricula omit his work, labeling it fringe despite practical applications in modern ventilation systems and water purification devices that unknowingly incorporate his spiral piping designs. Had Schauberger's implosion technology been openly developed, aviation, shipping, and power generation would operate on clean, inexhaustible principles, eliminating fossil fuel dependency and the geopolitical conflicts it sustains. Instead, prototypes vanished into black. Projects, ensuring continued dominance of explosive, wasteful technologies profitable to entrenched interests. Joseph Newman's overunity energy machine. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, American inventor Joseph Newman constructed large electromagnetic motors, claiming to produce more mechanical and electrical output than input power supplied, allegedly tapping zero-point energy through massive coiled conductors and commutator timing. Demonstrations showed his device powering lights, fans, and appliances while drawing minimal current, with independent measurements by engineers suggesting coefficients of performance far exceeding unity, violating accepted conservation laws, yet reproducible under controlled conditions. Newman filed for a U.S. patent in 1979. The Patent Office rejected it repeatedly, citing impossibility under thermodynamic principles. In an unprecedented 1986 court case, Newman versus Quigg, he presented testimony from dozens of scientists and engineers who verified excess energy output. The judge ruled the machine appeared to work, but deferred to the patent office's scientific judgment, effectively blocking commercialization. Media campaigns portrayed Newman as a delusional fraud, despite his articulate defenses and raw data. The National Bureau of Standards tested a unit under restrictive conditions, sealing inputs and outputs in ways Newman protested prevented optimal resonance, and declared no overunity. Critics later revealed procedural flaws favoring null results. Newman published detailed blueprints, encouraging replication. Hundreds attempted, some reporting success, others failure due to precise timing requirements. Harassment followed. Lawsuits, IRS audits, and seizure of equipment plagued supporters. Newman's machine threatened electric utilities and meter manufacturers by promising backyard generators, delivering free power once initially spun up. His theory posited that current flow in massive coils accesses the quantum vacuum's background energy, a concept now explored in mainstream Casimir effect and stochastic electrodynamics, research yet still marginalized when applied to practical devices. Declassified military interest in similar overunity claims suggests selective suppression for strategic advantage. Newman continued demonstrations until his death in 2015, amassing thousands of pages of affidavits and measurements. The refusal to grant patents on energy-producing devices persists in U.S. PTO policy, creating a legal barrier no inventor can overcome without proving impossibility possible. Had Newman's design entered production, decentralized household energy independence would have disrupted centralized grids, slashing utility profits and fossil fuel demand, while empowering individuals economically and politically, a threat no monopoly tolerates. John Hutchison's levitation effect and zero-point energy extraction. In the late 1970s, Canadian researcher John Hutchison began experimenting with high-voltage, high-frequency electromagnetic fields in his Vancouver apartment, combining Tesla coils, Van de Graaff generators, and radio frequency transmitters in complex interference patterns. What emerged became known as the Hutchison effect: spontaneous levitation of heavy objects, anomalous melting of metals without heat, fusion of dissimilar materials such as wood embedded in aluminum, and disintegration of steel samples into powder. Filmed repeatedly on analog video, these phenomena occurred unpredictably yet repeatably under specific field configurations, defying classical mechanics and material science. Military interests surfaced quickly. In 1983, U.S. Army intelligence officers visited, followed by representatives from Los Alamos National Laboratory and Lockheed Skunk Works. The equipment was borrowed for testing and never returned. Hutchison's laboratory suffered break-ins, with key components stolen. Canadian authorities raided his home multiple times, confiscating decades of samples and recordings under vague regulatory pretexts. Declassified correspondence later revealed joint U.S.-Canadian monitoring, classifying the effect as potential directed energy technology. Hutchison theorized that intersecting scalar waves and zero-point fluctuations created localized space-time distortions, temporarily nullifying gravity and altering atomic cohesion. Independent physicists analyzing surviving footage noted similarities to Podkletnov, gravity shielding, and modern metamaterial research, yet mainstream journals refused publication. Attempts at replication by qualified teams were disrupted through funding cuts or institutional pressure. One prominent researcher reportedly received threats after announcing partial success. The implications were seismic. Controllable anti-gravity and material transmutation would revolutionize transportation, construction, and manufacturing while providing limitless clean energy from the quantum vacuum. Aerospace and defense contractors dependent on conventional propulsion stood to lose trillions in existing contracts. Hutchison samples, metal bars bent like taffy, wood fused inseparably into steel, were seized and vanished into classified storage, preventing open scientific verification. Despite decades of demonstrations to journalists and scientists, no peer-reviewed validation emerged because the effect resisted controlled laboratory conditions. Requiring the chaotic field densities only Hutchison's makeshift setup achieved. The systematic removal of evidence and marginalization of witnesses ensured the technology remained fringe, its potential locked away in black projects while public science dismissed it as artifact or hoax. Had the Hutchison effect been openly studied and refined, humanity might already possess gravity control and vacuum energy. Extraction, capabilities that would end resource scarcity and centralize power structures overnight. Its coral castle and Edward Leedskalnin's anti-gravity construction method. In the 1920s and 1930s, a diminutive Latvian immigrant named Edward Leedskalnin single-handedly quarried, carved, and positioned over 1,100 tons of oolitic limestone in Homestead, Florida, creating the enigmatic coral castle. Blocks weighing up to 30 tons were moved and balanced with precision impossible by known mechanical means of the era. No heavy machinery, no crew, only hand tools visible to occasional witnesses. Leedskalnin worked alone at night, claiming to have rediscovered the levitation secrets used by ancient builders of pyramids and megalithic structures. Eyewitness accounts from local children describe stones floating like hydrogen balloons when Leedskalnin sang to them, accompanied by a tripod-mounted box with wires and batteries. He published pamphlets on magnetic currents, asserting that individual magnets flowing through stone could be manipulated to counteract gravity. Surviving photographs show a perpetual motion holder, a flywheel he claimed spun indefinitely, and precise stonework, including a 9-ton gate that once pivoted with a finger's touch until modern repairs disrupted its balance. Authorities and engineers repeatedly investigated, unable to explain the construction. Leedskalnin died in 1951, taking his method to the grave. His notes were cryptic, tools rudimentary. The site was purchased privately, and detailed measurements of magnetic anomalies around the stones remain unpublished. Modern attempts to move similar blocks using period-appropriate equipment fail spectacularly, requiring teams and cranes. Coral Castle threatened orthodox understanding of ancient engineering while offering practical anti-gravity techniques accessible to individuals. Had Leedskalnin's magnetic levitation been reverse-engineered, construction, mining, and logistics industries would face obsolescence. Decentralized building without fossil fuel machinery would democratize infrastructure. Instead, the site became a tourist curiosity, its deeper implications buried under folklore and skepticism. Contemporary physicists exploring magnetohydrodynamics and diamagnetic levitation acknowledge small-scale effects, but deny applicability to massive objects. Yet Leedskalnin's results stand as physical evidence. The systematic downplaying by academia and media ensured his rediscovery remained anecdotal, preventing widespread adoption of a technology that could have transformed civilization's relationship with heavy labor and energy-intensive lifting forever. And Wilhelm Reich's orgone accumulator and cloudbuster technology. In the 1930s and 1940s, Austrian psychoanalyst and physicist Wilhelm Reich identified what he termed orgone energy, a universal life force permeating the atmosphere, concentrated in living organisms and responsible for biological vitality, weather patterns, and cosmic motion. Reich constructed orgone accumulators, layered boxes of alternating organic and metallic materials that concentrated this blue-glowing energy, reportedly accelerating healing in patients sitting inside. Clinical reports documented rapid recovery from chronic conditions, reduced tumor growth, and enhanced vitality in controlled trials across Europe and America. Reich extended the principle to atmospheric manipulation with the cloudbuster, grounded arrays of hollow metal pipes connected to flowing water, capable of drawing orgone from the sky to dissolve clouds or induce rainfall. Demonstrations in drought-stricken Maine in the early 1950s produced measurable precipitation, increases verified by local farmers and radar records. Reich claimed the technology could end desertification and stabilize climate by restoring natural pulsation, suppressed through modern pollution and electromagnetic interference. Yet in 1954, the Food and Drug Administration obtained an injunction labeling orgone non-existent and accumulators fraudulent medical devices. Reich refused compliance on scientific grounds. Federal agents raided his laboratory, burned thousands of books and journals in incinerators, among the largest book burnings on American soil, and destroyed all accumulators and cloudbusters. Reich was imprisoned for contempt in 1956 and died in custody the following year under circumstances supporters deemed suspicious. Surviving documents were sealed or vanished. Researchers attempting replication faced professional ostracism. The implications were staggering. Free, universally accessible healing energy would collapse. Pharmaceutical empires built on symptom management. Weather control without fossil fuel infrastructure threatened agribusiness and geoengineering interests. Modern biophysics acknowledges biofield effects and atmospheric electricity, while cloud seeding programs echo cloudbuster mechanics, yet rely on expensive chemicals. Declassified military weather modification projects reference Reich's work obliquely, suggesting selective appropriation. Reich's meticulous experimental protocols, published in peer-reviewed journals before the ban, detailed measurable organ charge differentials and biological responses. Independent accumulators built post-mortem reportedly produce therapeutic effects. Yet, regulatory bodies continue prohibition. Had organ technology advanced openly, medicine might prioritize energetic balance over chemical intervention, and agriculture could harness natural rainfall cycles, eliminating dependency on patented drugs and engineered climate solutions that enrich corporations while perpetuating scarcity. Otis T. Carr's OTC X1 circular foil craft and free energy propulsion. In the late 1950s, American inventor Otis T. Carr, claiming direct guidance from Nikola Tesla through Ralph Ring, a technician who worked with him, announced construction of the OTC X1, a 45-foot circular spacecraft powered by rotating capacitors and counter-rotating metal plates, allegedly tapping universal counterspace energy for propulsion and anti-gravity flight. Carr secured private funding and publicly stated the craft would achieve orbit without rockets, offering free energy generation as a byproduct once airborne. Demonstrations of 6-foot models reportedly showed silent levitation and rapid directional changes in front of witnesses, including investors and journalists. Carr filed patents describing Utron electrical accumulators that stored and amplified ambient field energy through geometric resonance. In 1959, plans for a manned test flight were announced. Weeks later, federal authorities charged Carr with securities fraud over promotional stock sales. Equipment was seized, prototypes dismantled, and Carr imprisoned briefly. Upon release, he ceased work, warning associates of threats against his life. Ring later recounted a 1960 test where a 10-foot model carrying 3 men instantaneously displaced 40 miles in minutes, returning with no elapsed time sensation, phenomena matching modern quantum teleportation concepts. Documentation vanished. Surviving blueprints show striking similarity to suppressed Nazi dielectric propulsion designs studied under Operation Paperclip. The OTC X1 threatened aerospace monopolies reliant on expendable rockets and fuel contracts worth billions annually. Decentralized anti-gravity vehicles with onboard free energy would render oil, aviation, and centralized power obsolete overnight. Military absorption of similar dielectric field propulsion appears in declassified patents and eyewitness accounts of black triangle craft exhibiting identical maneuvers. Carr's theoretical framework posited space-time as a compressible medium, navigable through rotational electromagnetism, a view now echoed in breakthrough propulsion physics programs at NASA, yet kept theoretical. Independent builders attempting replication report anomalous weight reduction and torque effects, before projects mysteriously collapse through funding loss or regulatory intervention. Had Carr's craft succeeded publicly, humanity would possess personal interstellar capability and unlimited clean energy decades ago, dismantling hierarchies built on controlled scarcity and restricted mobility, while ushering an era of true technological liberation.